Imagine walking into your local supermarket next week and finding the price of your weekly basket has inexplicably soared by 50%. It sounds like a dystopian nightmare, but for millions of Americans, this catastrophic price surge is not a far-off threat. It is a direct, immediate consequence of the recent 2025 government shutdown. This isn't just about furloughed workers. It's about a silent, systemic failure hitting the one place no family can afford to be hit: the dinner table. We're going to show you the 4 critical, bureaucratic dominoes that fell, transforming a political stalemate into a massive food crisis and pushing your grocery bills into the stratosphere. Stick around, because the most shocking part is how easily this crisis could have been avoided. The fatal flaw: regulatory paralysis at the ports. To understand how a political fight in Washington can make your milk and meat astronomically expensive, one must first look at the ports. Every day, the vast majority of our imported food products, from exotic fruits to essential components for processed foods, rely on inspections and certifications from various federal agencies, including the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and the Department of Agriculture, USDA. These agencies, however, are largely comprised of non-essential personnel during a shutdown. When the 2025 shutdown hit, it immediately halted the processing of routine import documentation and non-critical food safety inspections. The result? A catastrophic logistical bottleneck. Cargo ships carrying perishable goods couldn't offload their products, or the products were significantly delayed awaiting the few remaining essential inspectors. Think of it: tens of thousands of containers sitting idle. This wasn't just a slight delay. It was a total regulatory paralysis that started spoiling produce and holding up essential ingredients, shrinking the available supply almost overnight. This immediate supply shock was the first, most brutal hit to your wallet, making any item stuck in transit instantly scarce and therefore exponentially more expensive. The broken chain: farmer payments and loan freezes. The second critical domino was the immediate impact on the American farmer and rancher. Agriculture is a capital-intensive business, and most farmers operate on incredibly tight margins, relying on predictable, timely federal support. Key agencies like the Farm Service Agency, FSA, and the Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, are responsible for administering crucial farm loans, conservation payments, and disaster relief funds. With over 90% of FSA staff furloughed during the 2025 shutdown, scheduled loan disbursements froze, and critical conservation payments, cash farmers were counting on to cover costs, were suddenly delayed. This didn't stop the harvest or the planting immediately, but it did create a massive liquidity crisis for producers. Farmers who couldn't access credit or payments were forced to hold back inventory, or worse, sell their products at an artificially inflated price just to cover operational costs. This anxiety immediately transferred to the commodities market. When major producers face uncertainty, the wholesale price of grain, livestock, and raw produce spikes, sending a shockwave up the entire food production ladder. The price of your breakfast cereal, bread, and beef essentially absorbed the farmer's missed loan payment. Food safety: the threat of the unknown and consumer panic. The third, and perhaps most emotionally impactful, consequence was a collapse of food safety confidence. While essential food safety inspectors, like those who check meat processing plants, remain on the job, the shutdown hobbled a vast network of food safety research, lab testing, and proactive monitoring conducted by the FDA and USDA. Crucial services like the prompt investigation of foodborne illness outbreaks and the routine testing of less regulated produce were drastically reduced. This created a fear factor among consumers and retailers. As news cycles highlighted the lack of comprehensive oversight, major grocery chains, fearing costly recalls and reputational damage, became hyper-cautious. They began demanding higher prices from their suppliers to account for the increased internal risk, or they simply reduced orders of high-risk items, once again artificially constraining supply in the marketplace. This consumer and corporate anxiety acts as a multiplier, turning a modest supply disruption into a panic-fueled price hike. When people worry about the safety of an item, they either stop buying it, hurting farmers, or the system overcorrects by charging an exorbitant premium for perceived safe or locally sourced alternatives. The economic multiplier: furloughed paychecks and SNAP delays. The final, Compounding factor that solidified the 50% price increase was the hit to overall consumer demand and the strain on the federal nutrition safety net. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers were furloughed or required to work without pay. These are not statistics. These are families whose purchasing power evaporated overnight. While some core supplemental nutrition assistance programs, SNAP, benefits were initially maintained, the crucial administrative functions, processing new applications, maintaining state coordination, and securing long-term funding, stalled. The simultaneous collapse of federal purchasing power and the looming threat to the safety net caused two things to happen. First, it stressed local food banks and community resources, which then had to purchase more food at already inflated prices. Second, it created a long-term ripple effect. A weakened consumer base means the economy is less stable. To hedge against this massive instability, all actors in the supply chain, from the fertilizer company to the regional distributor, demanded higher prices now to protect against a future economic unknown, effectively making every single grocery purchase a deposit against a future recession. This, combined with the supply shock and liquidity freeze, is what delivered that stunning, brutal 50% increase to your weekly bill. The uncomfortable truth, a self-inflicted crisis. So, how do we get here? The uncomfortable truth is that the 2025 shutdown didn't trigger an external event like a hurricane or a pandemic. It triggered a domino effect of bureaucratic inaction. By treating essential oversight, financial assurance for farmers, and food security programs as political bargaining chips, the government inadvertently shut down the reliable flow of food. The $11 billion the last major shutdown cost the U.S. economy pales in comparison to the long term, compounding damage done to the bedrock of our food system this time around. This 50% increase in grocery prices wasn't a natural market correction. It was a failure of governance, a self-inflicted wound that proved how fragile the highly optimized, just-in-time food supply chain truly is. The key takeaway for every consumer is this: the price of political instability is not abstract. It's paid for in full every time you swipe your card at checkout. Conclusion and your action plan. The question now is, what can one person do? The short answer is, be informed, be diversified, and be vocal. First, diversify your food sources. Look for local farmers markets, co-ops, or community-supported agriculture, CSA, programs that bypass the major federal supply chain bottlenecks. They rely less on federal bureaucracy and often maintain more stable prices.